Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I am your host, Josh Culler, and we got Tom Olson, president of Good Success, with us, sitting right next to us.
We're pumped
and
today.
We're jacked. Like this is exciting, man. This is the biggest podcast that has been on the Good Success Podcast. We're super excited.
We're gonna have to wait to see about that, right?
I'm sold already,
okay.
Man. Like
Josh is sold. He believes in it.
I believe in him. We got Rock Thomas, the myth, the legend, the rock star Rock Thomas on the show today. Rock, what is going on, my friend? You ready to do this?
It looks like I still have to impress Tom here, so I like the challenge. You know?
Challenge accepted, though,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I believe in you.
I know you do.
I believe in you.
Awesome. So Rock is the author of Your Epic Life Blueprint, the book, and then The Power of Your Identity. Rock, this book is, oh my goodness, it's fantastic. So I'm excited about talking about that. So, and he's also the founder of the M1 Mastermind, which I am very interested in. I'll be joining that pretty soon with you, Rock, there. And then he's also the founder of the GoBundance Mastermind, which Tom's going to be a part of pretty soon. And then he has a pretty extensive past and experience in real estate. He owns 6 Remax franchises, grew that to $1 billion company, even plus that. And then if you guys like free content, Rock puts out an insane amount of free content. I'm talking like free ebooks, videos, like all kinds of stuff. And then that kind of segues into, if you guys have ever been on Facebook, period, you probably have seen the Goalcast video that is with Rock Thomas on it, close to, I think it's peaking like 80 million views or something like that, Rock. So excited about that. We're not gonna go super deep into that because you guys have to go watch it. Like that's.
I'll just give a sneak peek, all right? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
So, whatever follows follows you.
There we
Yes,
go.
sir.
Nice.
Yeah, you got
Boom.
it.
I'm impressed.
and
Mic drop.
The other thing that's awesome about that, I'm telling you, is if you're willing to do what's hard, life will be easy. I'm telling you, those two things are like the keys out of that. So you guys are gonna love it.
Absolutely. We're excited to dive deep into that. So we'll come back around to you, Rock, and jump into this. We got some fantastic questions, so you guys stick around. Make sure you do. But before we get into it, if you guys have not already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and several other platforms. Just go to the platform, search Good Success, and subscribe to us. Leave us a review if you're able to on the platform. We would love for you to do that. And then we got a free book, speaking of free content, that was written by Tom Olson, Active Turnkey, the best way to buy rentals. We talk about financial freedom in here. Tom talks about the 5 wealth generators. He's taking it from me. I have a whole box of these that we're giving up for free.
About this now for several podcasts, and I came to the realization.
What's that?
That I should just be giving this book away.
You should.
So you've been right all the time.
I know.
You've been right, Josh, and I admit it here on so this is the best way I can think about to work, to have, to give, to be the conduit and not a bucket. This is like what I've learned. This is how I've learned from my own trial and error on this is the best way to buy rentals. This is what I would do if I was somebody like you, learning from an experience of me going through all of these hardships and maybe doing it the wrong way too many times. This is how I found my own personal financial freedom. And this is just a way for me to give back to you. So yes, Josh, you can give away this book. I won't argue with you anymore. So
let me have that back then. So go to goodsuccess.com/ATK book. Again, that's ATK as an active turnkey, goodsuccess.com/ATK book. And you can pick that up for free. We just ask you to cover shipping costs, and then Tom pays for the book. That's how it works, and it's fair. You guys get an awesome book. So go check that out. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/ATK book. And then we have our mastermind, the Good Success Mastermind, coming up. The next event is in Miami, Florida, because nobody wants to be in Chicagoland area in November. So November 8th through 10 is when we're having that down in Miami, Florida. You guys can check that out, goodsuccess.com/mastermind. To learn more about that, we do have you apply for that. So make sure you fill out those questions when you get to the application. We don't let just anybody in. Yes, the volume that you're doing in your business, the growth, the scalability, and all that, but also the type of person you are. We do vet that. We have our core values of community, growth, stewardship, and charity that we do vet you with. So we want to make sure you fit those core values, and it fits for both of us.
To me than anything else.
Absolutely.
I only want people in that group that have that same mindset, that they were placed on this earth for a purpose, and they're here to fulfill that purpose. And everything changes in life when we stop thinking it's everybody else's responsibility. It's ours.
Absolutely. Love it. So go check that out, goodsuccess.com/mastermind, to learn more about that. And we'll see you in November in Miami. We're going to have a lot of fun and get a lot done. So let's go ahead and jump into this interview. I'm excited to have Rock Thomas. Rock, again, I appreciate you taking the time to be on our podcast and let us pick your brain. Again, there's a lot of just Rock pumps out so much. Talk about being a conduit, not a bucket. Like, this guy is definitely a conduit when it comes to his knowledge, his resources. I mean, me alone, he's jumped on a couple calls with me, just out of just requests, and then even this podcast, and I think that's fantastic. And again, gives away a lot of free content, and that's fantastic. So, Rock, we're gonna stop talking and hand the mic to you. So do us a favor, and for the 1% of people that don't know who you are that are listening to this, introduce yourself and go back into your roots. I love the Goalcast video and that whole story. You can go into that if you want. If not, then everybody's gonna have to watch it. We'll link that below, and then talk about just the path to where you're at now.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. I love your energy. Very exciting. And of course, real estate is a vehicle that's been really, really good to me in my life. I think that in life, you choose your obstacles if you're conscious. And if you're not, what happens is life chooses them for you. And so I try to set big goals in my life so that I get to decide whether I want to run a marathon or whether I want to work out in the gym or I want to ride a bike, so that I don't have to choose something called being not in good health and then forced by a doctor to behave in a certain way. And I think if people really would understand that life is about consciously choosing the things that you are going to force you to grow, then they would probably make and set bigger and better goals. So for me, I was fortunate. I grew up on a farm, as some of you know, and I learned how to work really hard at a young age, and not necessarily by choice, but by context. And when things went wrong on a farm, animals still needed to be fed. You discovered a way to become resourceful. I think that's one of the greatest gifts of maybe the military or being on a farm or being on a sports team. When a man goes down, when Tom Brady has one of his receivers go down, they don't go, okay, well, game over. One of our good guys is out. We're done. They go, okay, send in the backup. Tom has to become resourceful. He has to adjust. He has to become creative. He has to keep his mindset focused. And I think that's how I try to live my life. Whatever life throws at me, through the grace of the Creator, I try to take it on. But most of the time, I try to design my obstacles for me. And that led me into real estate later in my life. For 20 years, I thought that my identity, the words that follow I am, followed me, were I am a hard worker. So I painted, I cleaned people's homes, I cut lawns, I did things that paid me just over minimum wage, non-skilled labor, because that's who I thought I was. And I actually accumulated a lot of wealth because I was such a good hard worker. One of the things I teach people in my mastermind when I'm coaching them is that the two ingredients that are required for you to succeed is a good work ethic and a level of curiosity. Cool. If you're willing to show up.
Some of us have that around, don't we, Josh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of curiosity and a lot of hard work.
And isn't it fun?
It is. It's
absolutely
amazing.
When you're with people that are willing to get at it and they say yes, and they're willing to be open and they're curious and they ask lots of questions. I love being around people like that. I can see you guys have that energy, attentive listeners, etc. It doesn't really matter if you have those two characteristics if you put yourself into the right environment. In other words, if the three of us went together and we worked out with a bunch of Russian Olympic swimmers, we'd get better at swimming, right?
Oh,
Yep.
Because we'd be paying attention, be curious. We'd be watching what they're eating, how they're walking, how they're swimming, what they're doing, how they're talking, how they're thinking. And when you do that, then you grow. And when you grow, you feel better. I call it the plan to progress. If you don't have a plan to progress, you don't have anything really going on in your life that excites you. Because progress is excitement. I'm in the middle of taking golf lessons now. I used to be very, very good. I shot under 74 times when my son was in college. And then
Incredible.
Stopped playing and I got really, really bad. And the words that followed I am terrible at this.
Yes.
And the more I said that to myself, the more the evidence showed up and I was terrible. And then I started standing on the tee going, I'm like, please don't hit it in the woods again. And then I'd be walking through the woods. I could never find the ball. And I just kind of spiraled myself into being really, really, really bad. So the answer to that is set a new goal and get a new mentor. So now I have a coach and I'm on my second lesson. And I'll tell you what, if you know the 4 stages of learning, like I'm consciously incompetent right now, is I know what I'm doing wrong because he's pointed it out, but I can't connect the dots yet because the muscle memory is still fighting me from the habits I picked up the last 7 years. But merged to the second, third lesson, I'm already starting to get a little bit consciously competent. So there's a couple of things now that I know I can do. The way I'm holding the club now, I'm more comfortable with the new grip he's given me. So for most people that struggle, they also, when they get to what we call failure or disappointment, is they want to find an easier path. Instead of realizing that they're at that second stage of learning where they're consciously incompetent, and that's the time you raise the energy, you get excited, you stay with it, you repeat, repeat, repeat. I mean, think about it. When we learned how to walk, did we do it in a day?
Nope.
We probably,
No.
Nope.
yeah, we probably don't remember, but we know that we've seen other people learn. It takes 6 months or a year, right? And how much effort did they put into it?
A lot.
Every freaking day.
Yes.
Every day for 6 or 12 months, they got up and they put hours into it. And the parents didn't go after a week go, hey kid, I think you're just going to be a crawler. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
He's just a squirmer.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that, it's cliche, but fail faster towards success. Winston Churchill says that success is the ability to remain enthusiastic in spite of your setbacks. I think that's one of my greatest characteristics is that, you can punch me in the face, but I'll get back up. And you can punch me again, and I'll get back up. And as long as life continues to provide you with those obstacles, opportunities, learning experiences, challenges, whatever you want to call them, it's your inner resolve that, supported by your environment, you're in the right place at the right time. Everything happens for a reason. All of those things, whether you believe in God or the creator or good luck or bad luck, whatever it is, your ability to get back up enthusiastically is going to separate you from a lot of people. And that's really been good for me over the years. So now I'm in real estate. I'm in investments. I was lucky enough to be mentored by somebody that saw in me more than an unskilled laborer. And he said, I believe in you. And I was like, you talking to me? Because my dad told me always I was never good enough. Every job I did, every time I dug a hole or fixed a barbed wire fence or fixed a broken window, I was always told enough. I have 6 older brothers and sisters. They always laughed at me and bullied me and I got the hand-me-downs. So the message, the programming my brain absorbed, because we're just responding to our programming, was I'm not enough. I'm a skinny little pimple-faced, stupid kid. So that's what I lived out.
And it took until you were in your 30s before somebody actually told you that they believed in you.
Somebody that is a mentor for you. You see, your mentors are comfortable with your future. Your friends are comfortable with your present. Your friends are going to tell you, yeah, you're that skinny little pimply kid. They'll never amount to much. Come on over here. Let's have a beer. Your mentor is going to look you in the eye and go, whoa, you got some work ethic, kid.
Yeah.
And I bet you're coachable. I see your interest. I see your curiosity. Remember those 2 pieces. The mentor will see that. And if you see in the mentor, this guy, he was just like he had it together. He was an accountant turned salesman. He drove a great car. He had a beautiful family. He was classy. And I was like, I want to be that. But the little voice inside of me said, you could never be that. So I didn't try. But he brought me out of the shadows. And he says, I see that in you. And he started to mentor me. And a mentor really is somebody that walks with you. Because you guys are in real estate, you teach real estate. It's tough sometimes. You teach people the strategy and then they go out into the real world, they get punched in the face, they get knocked down. And unless you're desperate like I was, because the pain of living in my home environment was so intense, it was better to go work at McDonald's at the age of 17 and live in a room than live at home and work, make no money, and be bullied by my brothers and sisters and kicked around. So I left that environment for another environment, and most people don't have that environment. So they're like, you know what? I don't want to work evenings and weekends. Are you kidding? I want to be Justin Bieber. You know?
I don't want to be Justin Bieber, but
No, me neither. But I think that's a great point, though. Like sometimes comfort, especially us in America, we forget how easy things are for us, and it's really sometimes that's to our own detriment. I think that you've taken the challenges that have been put in your life and have said, you know what, I'm going to move on. I'm going to continue, and I'm not going to just sit here on the wayside and just let life pass me by. I'm going to create my own destiny, and I'm going to choose what I'm going to grow at. I think that's awesome. A really great story of mine, and I don't really talk about this too much, but a man named Randy Erickson, when I was in 8th or 9th grade, used to come up to me, and I was a skinny little runt. I was the guy that, like, I was taller than everybody, but I still weighed less than everybody on the basketball team. And the guy would come up to me after every practice, after every game. He's like, you know what? You are the best player on the team. You may not score the most points, you may not have the most assists or the most rebounds, although I was always second or third in those. But I was the one setting the picks. I was the one behind the scenes trying to figure out the game, and he would always like point those good things out about me, and he'd say, "I believe in you." And at the same time in my life, I had the senior varsity coach tell my junior high coach that I would never play a minute of varsity basketball. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I started playing varsity when I was in 10th grade because, like, that gave me that gumption to say, no, you're wrong. Like, I will make this happen. I will not go to bed until I can make 10 free throws in a row. I will learn how to do left-handed layups. I will dribble with both hands and most of the time drive with my left hand instead of my right hand to fool the other team. So I think that's awesome that you had somebody at some point. But I think we all ought to be that way. Think about that. You know, so a person in his life, in Rock's life, that was a legacy to him, really, is that man that told you they believed in you. And I think now you're kind of taking that message with GoBundance, if mistake me if I'm wrong, and M1, and saying, I believe in you and you can do it.
Yeah, 100%. And we use actually a very, very scientific strategy. We call it SEC, support, encourage, and challenge. Because when you're challenged by somebody, you want to prove to them that you can make it happen. That's rocket fuel for some people. But for some people, when they're challenged too much, they fold because they need more support or encouragement at that time. If Wayne Jordan, who was my mentor, walked up to me and said, you know, I challenge you to be the greatest real estate agent in this office. Now go do it. I would never have done it because I didn't believe in myself. What he did is he provided me with encouragement. He provided me with support, which is what I needed. What did I have plenty of growing up? Challenge.
Challenge, yeah.
So look at them as 3 silos, okay? And those silos, if they're too off, you will not flourish in the ecosystem of effort. And I've been studying this for over 2.5 years, and kind of crystallized it as a science. Is some people, imagine a parent that does the child's homework, makes the bed for them, drops them off at school at the front door, makes their lunch, makes sure they have their snack, reminds them about all of these things, and says, if there's anything, text me. And they come home and they get a little bit bullied, and then the parent races to the school, takes them out of that school and brings them somewhere else. The experience for that child is that I don't have to put up with challenge. Mm-hmm. They never develop that silo. They go out in the real world to get a job. They don't like their boss. They quit. They come home. They live in their parents' basement until they're 45 years old. Mm-hmm. So what I've learned is that if you want to be a champion of life, you've got to expose yourself to those 3. And I'll give you another extreme. Mike Tyson, massive challenge in his life. Made over $500 million as a boxer, arguably one of the best ever. But what he didn't have was the encouragement. He was just told, go out there and be an animal. So the human spirit is so desperate to connect and be seen and be validated that if you just push somebody out there like Andre Agassi or these different people, they can achieve, yes, because we glorify success like the Williams sisters, etc. But are they truly living a life of fulfillment? Are they connected with people around them? Or do they do something crazy like Tiger Woods did because he was driven and challenged and so hard by his father that later he has to have an outlet where he can be seen, in his case, by a lot of women, right? Where he could be supported and told he's okay and he's enough, and not challenged and told you need to win another event. You need to be better than everybody else. So it is my firm belief that each one of us and everybody out there, if they're struggling in their path to success, they either have not been challenged enough, they have not been encouraged enough, or they have not been supported enough by their ecosystem. And for me, I'm a warrior. You want me on your team. You want me supporting you because I've done the black belt and challenge. Bring it on. Bring it on, right, is what my brain says. I got it. I enter a room and naturally people want me to lead. Not because I'm so great, just because I've been through the trenches. Does that make sense?
You can do it.
Yep.
I could do it. I've done it and nothing freaking scares me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a part of my little soul, the little Rock Thomas, that still wants to be encouraged. And when Wayne stepped up and spoke to that part of me, oh my God, it was just like angels had arrived. And I'm like, really? You're not gonna just challenge me and tell me that I have to do more? You're gonna support me and guide me? And now I stepped up even more because the cylinders need to be not too far out of balance. And I bet you if you think about the way you grew up, each of you, or everybody listening to this, you'll see where you struggle. Maybe you have a chip on your shoulder because you're like, I'm not gonna freaking grind it out again. No, I'm gonna do another 50 push-ups. I quit the football team. I'm out. Who the hell are you? Because they didn't see you when you were gutting it out, when you intercepted that pass, or when you caused the fumble and the other guy got credit and nobody went up to you and say, you punched the ball out. And we appreciate that effort. The other guy, everybody jumped around the guy who picked up the ball that you knocked out and ran and got the touchdown. And you're like, I worked so hard to finally make that happen. And then you quit. And that can become your identity for the rest of your life. One moment like that. So it's really, really crucial for me when I work with people. We go through that. We go through their history, their childhood trauma, if they want to go that deep. And we find out which silos are low and we fill those up. And then people double, triple their success.
So how, as a mentor then, and maybe this is too long of a conversation to get into, but like I have 39 employees here and I see this all the time. I see some people where I'm like, okay, dude, your ego needs to be dropped down a little bit of a notch somehow, or we got to get you down to the rest of the level. And other people where it's like, man, I really need to push this person up. And then other people, like you said, they've had tons of challenge or fine on the challenge, but like they just need encouragement. So how as a mentor do you kind of like recognize that and have the intuitive nature to be able to know what that is from each person?
Yeah, great question. So here's what I would ask you is I would say, what environment have you set up? Do you lead mostly by challenging your people, encouraging them, or supporting them? Because first, you're going to create an ecosystem for yourself, what you think people need based on your experience. And then people that are needing that will tend to stay. So I run a real estate office, and I had a manager running the office. I generally provide the challenge in the ecosystem of that organization because that's my strength, what I'm used to, what I'm familiar with, right? And I had another manager that also provided challenge. And we felt like the people that needed support and encouragement, they didn't feel like they were safe there. So some of the top producers, they liked it because there was lots of awards and recognition and they lived for that. And some of the quieter people weren't showing up for trainings and meetings and things like that. Then when I shifted over time, because it wasn't sustainable, not that I even knew about it, but I brought in this manager that was more like a mother. She was gentle and she was nurturing and she was kind and she understood and she brought cookies to the office and she would, get coffee. She was Italian, right?
Cheryl's not Italian, but Cheryl does that.
And all of a sudden we found these people that were not the top producers started to thrive and be attracted to the ecosystem. So just think about who you're attracting to your ecosystem. It's probably a reflection of you or what you've set up. So now what I do in my companies is I make sure that all three are represented. Somebody that can provide the support, somebody can provide the encouragement, and somebody that provides the challenge. And then you become an artist and you have to play with them.
Awesome. So then segueing into one of our next questions, I've got a long list of questions. We gotta be
Yeah, I can get going.
Man, I need to get Rock on here for like a full 4-hour webinar. But anyway, so kind of segueing into the other side of it. So in this book, The Power of Your Identity, you talk a lot about redefining yourself. And it may not even, I guess the question more of for me is, when somebody is in that position, how can they go through the steps of redefining themselves? I love the questions that you put in here to ask yourself every day. Like I tried it the first time that I read this book. I was like, man, I need to try that. And you had a list of, I don't know, maybe 20 to 40 questions or something like that on when you wake up, throughout your day, however you're feeling or whatever. One statement that stuck out to me that we say a lot is, if you're not growing, you're dying. So I feel like growing is one of those things that can redefine yourself. That can and you can grow into whatever you want to grow nowadays. So for you, what does that absolutely mean for somebody that if maybe they are in a place where they're stuck, they want to, I don't know, get out of where they're at right now and succeed? How can somebody redefine themselves?
So we're constantly defining ourselves. If I say to you, how are you? How do you respond?
Fantastic.
Tom, how about you?
It depends on how I are.
So are we talking about right now?
So a lot of people have, more standard answers, right? Not bad, pretty good, surviving, things like that. So they're actually affirming to their mind, which is listening to how we feel about ourselves, how they need to show up. Because we're not going to show up in a way, you're not going to go, hey man, I'm a non-smoker while you're smoking. It doesn't make sense. And think about it. If you didn't know how to describe yourself, and then you went to a party and you didn't know how you behaved, whether you're social or antisocial, you'd be schizophrenic. You'd freak out. We need to describe ourselves so that we know how to behave in the world and survive. Am I somebody who gets up early or gets up late? If the alarm went off and you didn't know, you'd go, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should get out of bed or you know what I mean? So you start to describe yourself so you know how to show up in life. And then you start to get validated for it. So I get validated for being a hard worker, for being in my integrity, for showing up, for over communicating, for saying yes to things and figuring it out, for being a leader. So then I start to affirm them back to myself. But what happens is that we have people that we love that give us labels that are unconscious. Have you ever seen a parent introduce their child and go, oh, this is Sally, but she's shy,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Sally, who's 4 years old, looks up and goes, shy, what does that mean? I don't know. So she starts to search and she hears it again and again and again. And then she starts, Mommy, what's shy? Oh, it's just because you don't talk very much and, you look down and, oh. So she goes, okay, that's who I am. So now she starts to live into that label. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And because mom has so much power and mom protects her in that example, and mom does it innocently. And the reason mom does it is why? Because she wants to protect her child from being badgered by questions or somebody going, well, why doesn't your kid talk? So she cushions it to protect her, but what she doesn't know is she's programming her to live that way for the rest of her life. People say to me, Rock, how do you have so much energy? I'm just a lazy person. I go, were you born lazy? You came out of the womb and you're like, yeah, drag me out, please. I'm lazy. I
don't want to come out.
So it's not true. But people look and they go, Tom, how do you have so much energy? Like, God, I wish I could be like you. Then freaking decide you're going to talk to yourself and say, I'm somebody who's curious and passionate, excited, and asks lots of questions. And when I'm with other people, I take an interest in who they are. And then you start to affirm to yourself and become that. So the words that follow I am is just a conscious programming. That's all it is. That's it. How do you do it? You just repeat to yourself what you want to become. Speak into your future.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then that was actually going to be my next question is, so one of the things that you're known for saying is it's the I am movement, the what follows I am follows you. And one of the first times I got on a phone with you, and it was funny because you made me change my answer. So you said, how are you doing? I said, better than I deserve. And then you asked me, what does that mean? And so I kind of thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Well, to me, it means that, you know, at any point, any given time, God could snap his fingers and everything that I have could be gone. That's what I mean.
Yes,
but do I really think about that when I'm saying it?
Yes.
So I changed my answer to fantastic,
Yes.
right? So the words that follow I am follow you. Can you go a little bit deeper into that? I know that in the book you talk about how our brains can be reprogrammed. Our brain is like software, and you even talked about it a little bit just now with redefining yourself. But go into that. So I am. Why is it so important to understand what follows I am?
Well, the strongest desire we have is to remain consistent with how we describe ourselves, and often you will behave in a way that you believe your peer group expects you to behave. So if you don't believe that, think of a time, if you maybe Tom, have you ever gone back to a high school reunion or anything like that?
I've had one. Our class didn't decide to do those. So
so when you go back into 10, 20 years ago, your old high school personality has a tendency to want to show up. I was that geeky little kid, skinny like you were, and that identity wants to show up again. So we're constantly trying to behave in a way that we think our peers will have us respond to. So if you don't consciously say, I am this or I am that, then the world will decide for you. So Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest. He made declarations over and over and over again, yes to the world, but who was hearing it every time he said it? He was.
You are, yeah.
So then and if you're going to be smart with this, in my opinion, you have to answer the question. So you ask really good questions like, who am I? Well, I'm a loving person. I'm a grateful person. I am blessed that every day I'm alive and I get to handle the things that come to me. And I like to go on rants and just get out of my head, because the information's everywhere, in my opinion. And if you just try to sit there quietly and go, okay, I'm going to think of a great idea and become the next Uber creator, it's not going to happen. What you need to do is you need to move your body, get excited, or see a problem that you want to solve and go on a rant. So I'll just go like, I'm gifted, guided, grateful, powerful, passionate, playful, sexy, sensual, sensitive, and blessed. Yes, 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 yes. And I'll just, and I'm gifted, guided, grateful. I'm gifted with an elite athletic body, an elite mind, a desire and passion to influence and affect other people. So over time, I've developed these words that become something. So then when I'm challenged, I'm go, yeah, but I'm gifted to find a solution. It's in my cells, versus other people are like, oh my God, the flight's delayed. This sucks. Oh my God. I'm like, all right, opportunity to do some yoga in the airport and make a couple of calls and, So
right.
Who you are, for me, is a work in progress. And the conversation you have with yourself, Josh, is the most important thing that you do. So I just choose to have this I am movement is a conversation with myself that I'm building and evolving and changing all the time.
And I love that thought too, because you get to choose what follows I am. Like you get to say what follows that.
Yes.
So
and
awesome.
And by the way, that's a really great point, Josh, because how many times have you been with people and they go like, use the golf metaphor, they go, oh, I'm such an idiot. And you're really telling yourself, like, would you talk if you have children, if your children did it something like, would you say you're an idiot with that level of passion and intensity? No. I play a lot of sports against people and I watch people beat themselves up all the time. You know what I do when I hit a bad shot? As I go, next one's going to be better. I try to be kind to myself, because it rarely motivates you to beat yourself up, which is what people think. They go, if I just am mad enough at myself, I can access some energy that'll cause me to create a new change.
Interesting.
I think the world is starving for leadership.
Oh,
and really, so that's what you're explaining, and the way I take this is, and in order to be a good leader of others, you have to lead yourself first. So in order to be that encourager or that person that's going to challenge, you have to encourage yourself. You have to challenge yourself first. And it all starts with number one. One of our core values is growth, and we say we want to be the change. One of our statements behind it is we want to be the change within, or it all has to start with us. So I think that's an amazing point, and really, like, I promise you, this world is just starving for leadership. Yeah. People so I have this humongous dream to flip this entire city of Gary, Indiana. And when I started talking about it and verbalizing it, people thought I was crazy. And I got all these crazy things on Facebook, like it's never going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And I kept telling them, everything changes when you stop thinking it's the government's job to change your city or to help your community or to help your schools. It is your job. And we are already seeing things happen. Yep. And honestly, it's not even all me. It's just the fact that somebody has believed in the city and somebody has stood up and said, we're going to take responsibility for this city, even though there's not a single hotel in Gary, Indiana. You know that? Like, so with 80,000 people here right next to Chicago, like there's not a single hotel in that city. And we are going to change that. So I love that. He's awesome.
Absolutely.
Great decade.
Can't wait to meet you, Rock.
Yeah, awesome. So we got to wind this down. I wish we could keep him on for another couple hours. I keep saying that, but so much we could talk about. But we got to wind this down. We got a couple more questions for you, Rock, and then we got to let you go. So one thing I'm very curious about. Now, I'm not the type of person that like looks back at my past all the time. I'm like, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. But somebody that's up and coming, if you were to tell your 18-year-old self one thing, what would that be?
Oh my gosh, only one, huh?
Only one.
I think that the most important thing to do is to find somebody, and this is not brand new, but I want to take it a bit deeper, is find somebody that you admire and respect as a mentor, and then truly actually get to know them a little bit, because I've been disappointed by some mentors. On the outside, they looked like they had what I wanted. And then when I got to know them and I followed them closer, I realized that their intention was not what I thought it was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you ultimately will be mostly affected by the people you choose in your life. And I've become more of a Nazi on that one. Is you really need to be, it's like, I use this, you give you a graphic metaphor. You go into an elevator, there's 4 or 5 people in the elevator and somebody farts. Who in the
elevator? It smells in this room already just because you said that.
Wasn't me.
So everybody's affected in that elevator, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And that's the people you spend time with. And sometimes you think that people are really good, but everybody's really using everybody else. They're like, you know what? I'm going to, get some more contacts from you, or I'm going to do business with you, or what have you. So what I really think is important as an 18-year-old version of myself is take time. It's like hire slowly, fire quickly. Take time to add quality people into your life and nurture that relationship, get better at communication, value the relationship, and demand that both of you be very, very clear in how you're going to support, encourage, and challenge each other. And then go swing for the fences. And I think that's the most important thing. They say that if you have one good friend your entire life, you're lucky. And I had one friend that I loaned $110,000 to that was that moved to the islands, and he was a stock trader. And I watched him trade stocks for 25 years successfully. He'd make about 100% a year for a firm. So we had this great idea. I'd give him the $100,000 he was trading for the firm, and I'd get 50% and he'd get 50%. He'd make the same thing, but he could live in Anguilla. Well, long story short, whatever happened, he lost all the money, and we lost a friendship. And after about 3 or 4 years of him not paying it back, I said to him, could you just pay me $100 a month to show that you actually care? Like that Rock Thomas giving you $110,000 meant something to you, that I backed you, that I let you live your dream. Because otherwise I'm going to completely feel like our relationship was a fraud. And he couldn't come up with it. So I had to go through first forgiving myself, then forgiving him, then going back to him and healing that relationship. And that was a lot of work. So I think that if you don't do the work in life, you end up with a chip on your shoulder. There's a lot of people in the world that are bitter and they're cynical and their world is shrunk because they don't do the work. You're going to get messed up out there. You're going to get slapped around. You're going to get disappointed. But if you do the work, you grow your soul, which is ultimately what it's about anyway. So Josh, long answer to the question. It's risky asking me questions, but choose really carefully the people you are with, and you've got to pour into that relationship, because you're going to have different versions of yourself show up over the decades as you move through family and out of family and your careers go up and down. It's almost like if you could choose 5 friends that weren't your spouse and marry them with the same level of commitment, that's probably what I would do.
You're the average of the 5 people you associate with the most. That's, yeah, awesome. Love that. All right, so we got 2 more questions. These next 2, we ask everybody this question because we always get different answers. Now, good success for us means something very specific. It's about the quality of success as opposed to quantity. I know Tom talked about it a little bit before we even jumped on the podcast here. So it means something to us. Episode 100, we had the entire Good Success team in here. We all talked about what good success means to us and how we feel about it. And it was surprising. Everybody on the team had different views, different angles, but it still kind of summed up to what we actually are trying to structure it to be. So for you, when you hear the term good success, what do you think that means to you?
Choices, harmony, connection, being able to be myself with the people around me, authentically feel safe and free, to live a purpose-driven, meaningful, fulfilling life where I feel like I'm actually making a difference in people's lives. For a long time, I set these goals and I hit them, and I thought I was going to be happier when I got there. I have 36 streams of income today. I have a lot of financial success, but it doesn't make you any happier. It just allows you to arrive to your problems in style, for sure. But it's actually having that plan for progress with people that you love, and making a dent and a difference. It's little things, man. I was on a plane flying to Montreal here yesterday, and I was noticing the girl serving us. She was on it, man. She was just on it. She was just constantly coming to us, serving us, checking, more water, more water. And I just turned to her and I looked her in the eye and I touched her on the arm. I said, "You're awesome." And it's moments like that connection, that harmony. She was making my life great, and taking a moment to stop and be grateful for that. It's about creating those magic moments in your busy day. I know it's cliche, but appreciating other people, and for me, connecting with them, it gives you that little good feeling inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
love it.
You know what's awesome, Josh, is like this is a real estate podcast for the most part, but a lot of what we talk about for good success has nothing to do with real estate. I don't think we've mentioned real estate this entire podcast, which is totally fine by me, because this is the type of stuff that I really enjoy, and I believe, and we say this in every mastermind, every time I speak, everything. It's the intangibles that make all the difference. Yes, you've got to learn how to do deals, you've got to learn how to do all this stuff, but it's all those things that you don't see that are so much more important in life.
Could I speak to that for a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's the way I look at it: is you're teaching a strategy of success in real estate. Find the deal. Here's how you finance it. Do the due diligence, blah, blah, blah. That's the strategy. That's the left brain how-to part that stops most people, or they think it stops them. But what really stops them is the story they keep on telling themselves of how they can't implement the strategy you're teaching them.
Wow.
I don't have enough time. I can't do what Tom does. Tom's good with his hands, or he's a better negotiator than me. I'm not young and energetic like Josh, and creative and quick and smart and damn good looking with nice hair, right?
Appreciate it.
I can't do all that. So the story becomes what stops you. How do you change the story? You change the story with the I am statements.
Yeah.
And you rewire yourself so you can break through the old story and apply the strategy that you guys teach.
Well, awesome stuff, man. We appreciate that. So one more thing before we get off the podcast here. So I always ask the interviewee to leave the audience with one thing, whether it's a quote, a statement, a thought, piece of advice, anything. If you left our audience with one thing, what would that be?
Get really clear on what's important to you and start saying yes to things that will support it. And I'll leave it with a short story. When I was 23 years old, I was working on a movie set as a gopher, because it was my dream to meet, successful people and be in the movies. And Patrick Dempsey was the star in that movie. He was like 24 years old. He was not known like he is today. There was a scene where he's losing his virginity in a boat at nighttime to this goddess, who was supposed to help him get really cool because all the kids made fun of him. And the cameras were set up. It's 10 o'clock at night. The boat is in dark, murky water. We're up in Canada. It's cold. People have jackets on. And the director, Don Carmody, goes, and action, rock the boat. And the boat doesn't move. And he goes, and rock the boat. And the boat doesn't move. He goes, who's going to move the boat? Now, Patrick Dempsey's not in the boat. He's sleeping, but the scene will be what we call a B-reel of the boat, right, being rocked. So I'm walking by, I'm sleeping, whatever I'm doing, odd jobs. And he goes, we need somebody to rock the freaking boat. It's costing us $500 an hour to stand here and wait for, who's got that going? I run past everybody with all my clothes on, shoes on, everything, jump in the water, grab the boat, and I'm like, how's this? And he goes, perfect. Now just stay behind the boat. We'll film it. Ready and roll. So I rocked the boat. I hated the water. I'm skinny. I get cold quickly, but I said yes. And I just figured it out later. The next day they had another scene. They had a problem with some mud and some different things, and they couldn't get what they wanted. And the director yells out, where's that kid that rocked the boat last night? He'll come over. Get him over here. He'll do anything. Right. I ended up with a job as a director on the next movie. I got a part in the movie, albeit as a dead person. That was about the skill level of my acting. But the point being, guys, is that people don't say yes enough because the brain always wants to say no to protect you. Most of the time, if you think about the things that you don't do, they're never as bad as they end up being when you finally get to do them or you have to do them. So say yes to more things and figure out the details later. The universe will support you. You'll find a way. Stop saying stuck on first base, saying you want to get to second base. You got to take your foot off. You got to run. You got to take that chance. Watch the adrenaline kick into your body. Slide into second. So you got out. You learned something. So you made it. It felt great. Start saying yes and figure it out later.
Love it. All right, so that is going to do it for today's episode. Rock, we appreciate you again taking the time to be on. I hope we have you back soon. I mean, this was awesome. I love this podcast.
Thank you so much,
Rock. If someone wanted to learn more about you, learn more about M1, I know that you have new.rockthomas.com. Is that the best place to go to find out more about you?
Yeah, rockthomas.com. They can go to gom1.com for more about our mastermind. We have GoBundance.com for those people that are men only that want to be on some badass mastermind adventure trips. And I'm on social media all over the place, so they can go on Facebook and Instagram and all kinds of good stuff. And like you said, get some free content or just hang out and say hi.
Sweet deal. And we're going to have all that linked below, and then also the 2 books that he's authored. So The Power, if I can grab it here, The Power of Your Identity, and then Your Epic Life Blueprint. Both of those books will be linked below, so you guys can go purchase those if you need it. Rock, we appreciate you being on, man. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us and sharing all your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. My pleasure. Good success to you, brothers.
I appreciate it. All right, so that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining in. And if you're not already, make sure you are subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, several others. So just go to the platforms, look for Good Success, subscribe to us there, and you guys will get awesome interviews like we had today with Rock. And then we have the Active Turnkey book, best way to buy rentals for free. goodsuccess.com/ATK book is where you can pick that up. Just cover shipping costs. Tom is going to pay for the book, specifically Tom out of his pocket. So make sure you take advantage of that. And then the Good Success Mastermind, goodsuccess.com/mastermind. You can learn more about it there. We have a great group of individuals that are in there that, are willing to share. And then also you guys can apply there. Make sure you go check that out. goodsuccess.com/mastermind. The next event is in Miami, Florida, November 8th through 10. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining in. And remember to be a conduit, not a bucket.